Welcome to Friday's shared reading on Chapter 9 of Tiger Tiger. We started looking at this yesterday. We started looking at the smells, all the different kinds of smells that there are in this extract. We picked out all the quotes we could find. We broke down the meaning of some of the words in the extract, which meant things to do with smell, things like odours and bouquet of aromas, that kind of thing. And that was all preparation for today's lesson, where we're going to just consider why has the author Lynn Reid Banks chosen to do this? Why has she included? We picked out about 6 different references to smells in total. What was the purpose of that? Why has she done it? That's what we're going to be looking at today. We're going to get cracking fairly quickly, but just before you do that, please read through the extract one final time before we get started. Now you've had a chance to read the extract again, let's look at answering our question. The question that we're answering is Banks writes a lot about smells in this extract. Why? What I'd like to do is just break this down into 2 different parts. The first part we need to consider is the reason why Banks might write a lot about smells in this extract. What is the reason for that? And the second part of our answer is going to be what is the effect of writing about smells? So 2 different things. There's a reason why she's chosen to do it, and there is the effect that it has on the person that reads the story. Okay, the 2 things are very much linked, but they are quite separate as well. And these are 2 words that I'd like us to get into our answer today. Just have a think now, just have a moment to pause and think about this. What is the reason why she has written a lot about smells, and what is the effect of that on the reader? Now you've had a chance to think for yourself, I'm going to share with you my ideas about the reason why Banks has done this and the effect of it as well. So I think she's spent lots of time describing the smells in this extract because tigers have a strong sense of smell. Just like many other animals do, tigers have a really, really powerful sense of smell, far more powerful than humans do. So when a tiger is sort of making sense of the world around them, when they're working out what's going on, they're not just relying on their hearing or their sight. They're really using their sense of smell an awful lot to try and work out what's going on around them. And so the reason I think could be that tigers have a strong sense of smells, and since Boots is the only character in this part of the extract until briefly the 2 legs turn up, I think it seems appropriate to describe these smells quite a lot. And the effect of that is that it helps us to imagine the situation from Boots's perspective. Um, Whereas if it had been a human, they might not have. It might not be so relevant to talk about smells and what they could smell because they probably wouldn't be able to smell all that much. Um, Boots is able to get an awful lot from what he can smell in this situation. He can smell the tantalizing bouquet of aromas from outside, probably in a way that a human wouldn't be able to. And so, as a reader, even though we're trying to get into the mind of Boots, and I think it helps us to do that. It helps us to imagine how Boots is interpreting this situation, how he's feeling in this situation. Another reason why it might be so is that the wine cellar. We've talked about this before this week. The wine cellar may be very, very dark. There's probably no windows, there's probably no natural light. This is to look after the wine. And when a room is very dark, you start having to rely on other senses. So that's true of humans as well as other animals. If you can't see things, it means that your other senses become a bit more acute. And that means that you might be able to hear things that you wouldn't otherwise be able to hear, or you might be able to smell things that you wouldn't normally be able to hear. And so possibly because it's so dark in there, it might mean that Boots is having to rely even more on his sense of smell. And there's very little description of what the wine cellar is like. We've had to try and imagine it ourselves what it might be like this week. And maybe it's just the reason why Banks has used smell so much is because she can't describe the wine cellar itself and what it looks like because, well, Boots can't see it. And so the effect of her doing this, the effect of Banks doing this is that It helps us to imagine the setting without describing what it looks like. And I think that's a really, really interesting thing to do because so often when we're reading books or when we're writing our own stories, we do describe what the characters look like, we talk about what the settings looks like. We often don't take the time to describe the smells or the sounds or the tastes or what it's like to touch. And this extract I think is interesting, it's enjoyable to read, it's different because we're forced to build up that image of what's happening through imagining the smells rather than just what things look like. And I think that's a very interesting idea, and I think that makes this extract much more interesting to read. So now it's your turn to write your answer to this question. The question is, explain. Banks writes about smells a lot in this extract. Why? Now, I'm happy for you to answer this question in any way that you would like to, really. This is your answer. I'd like you to show your understanding about why you think that Banks has written about smells in this extract. Um, if you want a bit more support, then I will give you some sentence starters and I'll talk you through how you may wish to answer this question. So it's always good to answer a question very directly. So it's really important to sort of rephrase the question in order to sort of suit your answer. So I would start off with a sentence saying, in this extract, Banks writes a lot about smells. Now that just gets your answer off to a good start. It means you're right on the correct track. I then go into your reason, the reason that you've chosen for why you think that Banks does write about smells a lot. So you could choose as your reason that either tigers have a strong sense of smell or the fact that the wine cellar is very dark, so it wouldn't make sense to describe the appearance of what the wine cellar looks like. Um, I think I'm going to go with, as a suggestion, that tigers have a strong sense of smell. So, one reason for this is that tigers have a strong sense of smell. So, the next thing that you'd need to do is in the text it says, so this is your opportunity to introduce a bit of evidence into your answer, and that's where your work yesterday will come in really handy. You should have generated about 5 or 6 quotes of when Banks has written about smells in this extract, and your job is now to pick one that you think is going to help you answer this question. Now, I want something that proves that tigers have a strong sense of smell, or certainly supports that idea. Now, there's one quote that's really sort of jumping out at me. It says, the strong evening odours of green things and living things. Now, that's a smell that sort of drifted into the wine cellar when the door got opened. Now, I think it's very rare that if I was to go for a walk, say, with my dogs and I was to go into the countryside, I might have to get in my car, drive out to the countryside and take my dogs for a walk. I might be able to smell the odd animal, possibly, if I walk past a farm, maybe. Or I might be able to smell some freshly cut grass or another particularly strong smell of a plant, perhaps. But really, I don't think that's an important feature of my walk. Certainly, I think when I go outside, and I know lots of you do too, I don't necessarily get hit by a strong sense of smell. However, it says that Boots does. It says that a strong evening odour of green things and living things, by which we're talking about plants and animals. So this is proof, this is really strong proof that Boots has a really strong sense of smell because just opening the door of the wine cellar has invited all these different smells into the wine cellar. So that could be your quote. You could introduce that quote into your answer, making sure that you use quotation marks and a full stop. Now, the next bit would be to go on what the effect of this on us as the reader is, and you could then talk about whichever effect you believe is true. What is the effect of that? So it could be that it helps us to imagine things from Boots' perspective, because Boots is a wild animal, a wild cat, and Boots is going to experience the world through what he can smell. And so the effect of this is that it helps to explain to us, describe to us what Boots is going to be experiencing as he's down in that wine cellar. So if you if you can get all those things in, if you can use these sentence starters, you could get onto a really good answer. It might be that you want to come up with two reasons. It might be that you have enough space, or you can think of two different reasons and two different effects, and that would make a really strong answer too. But give it a go. I've given you a few instructions about how to do it if you're stuck, but I'd love you to give it a go and yeah, crack on with it. And that brings us to the end of our shared reading for this week. Well done for completing it. I can't wait to read what you've written. I'm aware this is a very different way of teaching, and it's been very different for me. I'm sure it's been very different for you as learners trying to learn this way. I hope you've enjoyed it. It's been enjoyable for me to make these videos for you, and I hope that you've taken a lot from it. So we'll continue doing some more Tiger Tiger next week. We'll try and find out exactly what's happened in the story with Boots and his escape from the palace, and yeah, I look forward to bringing that to you and learning and picking out a new extract and digging really deep into what the author's written. Take care.